Hello everyone, my name is John Locke and I'd like to welcome you to the LockeInYourSuccess.com Trading Performance Podcast. And this podcast is all about real traders, real problems, and real coaching. This is episode number 39, and today I'd like to start out with just showing you my t-shirt. If for those of you who are not familiar with this dog here, his name is Doug, and he's a talking dog from the Disney movie Up. And during that movie, this dog, he talks to people and he's very attentive to people for short periods of time. So he'll do something like this. He'll be going along, be talking along with somebody, telling them how much he loves them, and then squirrel. A squirrel goes by and his attention is completely diverted. So he'd be talking to you like this again and go, squirrel. And anytime he sees a squirrel, his attention goes off somewhere else. Now, this is the way I feel an awful lot when I'm talking with especially newer traders and sometimes even more experienced traders who haven't yet gotten consistently profitable in the marketplace. Now, this is a very, very common problem with traders. And at one point in my trading career, squirrel, it was also a challenge that I had. So what I decided to do is I decided to share with you an excerpt from a recent trading presentation I did for our Broken Wing Butterfly Masterclass that talks about a little bit about my journey in becoming a successful trader. I hope you enjoy the excerpt. Realize that once a long time ago, I was an aspiring trader too. And actually it wasn't all that long ago. I started trading in 2005, I think. But I was an aspiring trader, and I had the belief, like most of us do when we start trading, is that all I had to do was find the right indicator or the right trade or the right trading service. And I thought that that would solve all of my troubles. As a result of that thought pattern, I tried many different types of trading. I tried following other people's trading rules. I tried creating rules that worked flawlessly in back testing. And I even tried alert services and trade alongs. And yes, I through that process, I did have periods of success. But every single time, the market eventually changed, and whatever trade or service I was following, they had these periods of failure, right? Sometimes substantial inconsistency in what I was getting for results, which when I think about it now that I'm more experienced, that makes perfect sense, because now I understand the extent of variables that the market can throw at you. But at the time when I was new, this insight was shocking. I mean, how could this strategy or alert service that did so well in the past or did so well back testing or had this certain track record, how could it fail? But it did, right? One thing after another that I tried continued to fail repeatedly. And the reality is that you can't argue with the facts. Realize that for the most part, things that worked well in the past on backtester, these things are fitted for the past. And also realize that the future at some point will very likely be different than the past, which will inevitably lead you to different results. Therefore, you can't simply rely on a trade or an indicator if your objective is consistent profits. Because in order to get consistent profits, when things change, you need to be able to change and recognize those changes and change as well, right? You need to be able to adapt to those changes. Otherwise, if you don't do that, you end up in this loop of trying the next trade or the next trading service again and again, where in the end, you have a lot of new information, but you're really no further along than you were when you started. I know this because when I was new at trading, I was in the loop too. So the question becomes, why do we get stuck in this loop? Well, it has to do with something that we call in the coaching business the motivational triad. So our natural tendencies as human beings, our unconscious brain, it wants to seek pleasure, avoid pain, and conserve energy. Those are the three tips of our triad. We unconsciously want the pleasure of winning without the uncertainty of losing, without having to expend the energy to monitor what's happening in the marketplace and make judgments and make decisions that could potentially result in pain, or that are uncertain on whether they will or will not result in pain. This leads to a desire to follow rules, to have an indicator, or follow alerts where we can create what I call an illusion of certainty. Right? It's not really certainty because you're depending on somebody else's rules, or maybe even your own rules, or somebody else's indicator, or maybe even your own indicator, but you try and back test it like forever so that you create this illusion of certainty, right? And you do that through winning back testing or following those indicators in a way where we don't need to go through the work of paying attention to the market situation, and we don't need to make those uncertain decisions that could result in pain. Now, people say, well, what's the problem with that? Well, the problem is that the future, while it may have some similarities to the past, the future is different from the past. There's different types of market movements. Those movements are timed differently. The implied volatility situations are different. There's new news and different types of things that are going on in the marketplace. There's technology that drives changes in the marketplace. So we have all these things, and the future is going to be different. Therefore, if we want to win most consistently, we must be able to adapt to whatever differences the market happens to throw at us. So here's the secret. This is what turned my trading around. The thing that did it is when I finally accepted that there was no set of trade rules, or there was no alert service that was going to allow me to sit back and rake in the money consistently forever into the future. It simply didn't exist. That holy grail didn't exist. And I had to really internalize it. And I realized that I was going to need to learn when certain things were the right thing to do and when certain things were the wrong thing to do. You see, I get a lot of questions when I'm teaching students about broken wing butterflies and trading. Is it better to have more narrow wings or wider wings? Is it better to put a vertical here or a vertical there? Is it better to be closer to expiration or further expiration? There is no one right answer to that question. Everything depends on context. And finally realizing this is really, and starting to pay attention to the context is really where my trading turned around, when I was willing to make those decisions. And that is what I have for you today. If you'd like more useful information on how to skyrocket your trading results, please visit us at lockeinyoursuccess.com. That's LOCKE inyoursuccess.com, or the tradingperformancepodcast.com, and check out what we have to offer. Also, if you have any questions or comments or anything else you'd like to see on the next Trading Performance podcast, please post that in the comments below on this video, and we'll make sure I get those answered for you. Thank you, and we'll see you on the next Trading Performance podcast.